Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Small Stages, Big Sounds. I'm extremely pleased today to be honoured by the company of Walter Trout, the infamous legend and blues guitarist. So we're going to have a quick chat to Mr. Trout about his forthcoming UK tour, and we'll see how it goes from there. Good morning, Walter. How are you today?
I'm doing great, David. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So my first question for you is obviously you are roughly the same age as me, give or take a little bit. And your early influences like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, how did they phrase and shape your musical career?
Well, I have to say, my early influences were not Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath. My really early influences in music, at least in blues rock type of stuff, was the guitarist Michael Bloomfield with the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. And I grew up back in the 60s.
Hmm.
So it was the Cream and it was the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It was that all that incredible music of the mid to late 60s and early 70s that really got me going. People say, well, it's a kind of a metaphor when people go, "Who did you want to be?" Well, when I started off, I wanted to be Mike Bloomfield, and then I wanted to be Jimi Hendrix, then I wanted to be Eric Clapton, then I wanted to be Bob Dylan, and I put all of them together and kind of worked on it and became Walter Trout. But and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath came a little bit later.
Hmm.
And as far as Black Sabbath, I don't know if you're aware that I played in a trio with Bill Ward, the drummer of Black Sabbath, and Tim Bogart from Jeff Beck and from the Vanilla Fudge, and we were called Blue Thunder.
Mm.
And you can find us on YouTube. And we were together for a little while, and it was a great band. But I was also playing with John Mayall at the
Mm.
time, and it came down to where I had to make a choice, and I stuck with Mr. Mayall.
Okay. I mean, I've got an older brother who talks about John Mayall regularly, and he's been talking to me about you as well.
Yeah,
But
I was with John for almost 6, maybe 7 years. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, because he's that much older. He grew up in the 60s. He's 75. So he grew up with all the 60s music, and
Yeah.
he talks to me about those bands, but obviously I was a little bit younger and he passed me by. Well, it's an incredible career. I mean, to play with John Mayall must have been an incredible shaping factor.
You know something? My love and respect for him is something that is even hard for me to find words for. And I know that if he had not called me up one day and invited me to join his band, that my career would have been very different. I mean, I could have still been just playing in the corner bar. He really nurtured me and developed me and taught me. He was my mentor and my teacher and my musical inspiration for many years. So I feel very, very incredibly lucky. And I know that he changed my life by when he asked me to join his band.
So, do you feel that there are any guitarists out there at the moment that you could do the same for?
Well, I try to help young people as much as I can. When I'm in the UK next month, I'm going to have a young man playing with me whose name is Brett Smith Daniels, who is British.
Hmm.
And he has been touring with me, and I give him a little featured spot, and he's incredible. So there are young players out there. There's a lot of them, especially in the UK.
The one that comes to mind for me is a local lad called Chris Buck.
He's amazing. Chris Buck is incredible, and he also plays very unique. He
Mm.
stays away from the cliches, which I love, you
I
know.
mean, it's the way he plays things and leaves notes out that makes the tune what it is,
Yeah,
you
he's an
know.
incredible player. I'm a big fan of his.
And
He's
they're off on
remarkable.
a US tour next year, which is virtually sold out.
Yeah, that's great.
Obviously, touring is hard work for anybody of any age. Being an ex-healthcare profession, I understand that you've had health problems over the years. Do you have a particular routine to keep yourself on top of the tour?
Well, I can tell you that just last night I got back here. I'm in Denmark now with my wife.
Hmm.
We have a house here, but I just finished a 7 week tour of America, especially in the South, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Florida. And we headlined opening night at the New Orleans Jazz Fest on the blues stage. And at my age, I'm 74 and have been through a lot of health problems. It's important to me to try to eat well and also to get sleep
Mm.
after the gig instead of hanging out in some hotel room with a bunch of guys sitting around, partying up. The party ended for me. I've been clean and sober for 36, 37 years, something like that, and 38 years. I can't remember. But it's just important now to take care of myself because it is the playing. The 2 hours that you're on stage are joyous and transcendental, but getting there every day,
Mm.
driving 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and then playing, it takes it out of you. And I have a certain level of energy that I want to play at, that people expect from me. We
Mhm.
don't play like we're old men in our 70s. We play like we're guys in our 20s.
Mhm.
And to maintain that energy, you've really got to take care of yourself. So
I,
that
I can
that's it for me is good food and sleep.
Well, congratulations on the sobriety. That has to be said. But yeah, I can understand the good food and sleep and looking after yourself as I'm getting older as well.
Yeah, like for example, 40 years ago before we played a gig, you were drinking whiskey, snorting cocaine, doing all this crap. Now we have a blender with us in the dressing room and we have protein powder and almond milk and we make a protein drink and I have a good dose of protein drink before I go on stage. And so times are different.
Warm tea generally.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. For the throat, the warm tea helps the vocal. You got to sing every night. So there's a certain routine to it.
Sorry. So the latest album was released last year, Broken, and you've got some incredible collaborations on there. The one that struck me was the one with Beth Hart. I
Yeah,
absolutely love Beth Hart,
me
and it's an
too.
incredible collaboration. How did that come about?
I've written a lot of songs about recovery. That's big in my life, and I've tried to help people in their recovery too. I've tried to be there for people. And I was thinking about that song Broken. I was not just thinking about drugs and alcohol, but I spent some time in Los Angeles when I was young as a homeless guy, and I lived on the streets and I was just out chasing drugs and didn't even play the guitar for over a year. I just ran around LA trying to get high. And I knew at that time I was a lost, broken young man. I was trying to deal with pain from certain things that went on in my childhood that I was trying to deal with. So I wanted to write that song, and I had a few lines for the beginning, and I had the music. And when I started writing the lyrics, it almost became too painful for me trying to face certain realizations about the person I was when I was in my early teens. And I'm lucky in that I'm married to an award winning songwriter. I'm married to the first Danish person to ever win a blues music award for songwriting. And I called her up and I said, "Look, I'm trying to write about this subject and I'm stuck. I don't know what to say. And so 80% of that song lyrically, my wife, Marie, who's also my manager, she wrote that and sent me the lyrics. Then, as I was putting the song together, I could hear in my head, I could hear Beth singing with me. And she's been a dear friend for like 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been through similar problems in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little demo of it, and I sent it off to her. And she called me up immediately and she said, I have to sing this with you. You've written my life here. And so she came in the studio and we sang it together. And she took it to a whole other place than I could even imagine. She put everything she had into it.
She puts her heart and soul into her work. I got to give her that.
She really, she lived that song as she was singing it, which is what she does with every song she sings. That's one of things that makes her one of the greatest artists ever, is she lives the song.
I think she's
And
incredible.
she she took that song to a whole amazing place, you know. So God bless her, and she's a dear friend, and I love her dearly.
Yeah, I was supposed to see her in Bristol earlier this year, but it got cancelled for some reason. I assume she was unwell, but
Yeah.
it'll come around again. I'll get to see her one
A
day.
few months there where she had some health problems,
Mm,
but she's back out touring now, and she's kicking ass every night.
yeah, I can't wait to see it. Pretty much like I'm going to get to see you next week. So you've sort of answered one of my questions as well. I was going to ask about how your wife influences your career, but you've did that already in the fact that she's writing lyrics for you. So I'm not going to bother asking that question.
Well, we just I can tell you I can't go into a lot of detail, but I just finished a few weeks ago my 32nd album, and the title track of the album, she handed me a set of lyrics and I just put it to music. She wrote the entire thing. And so she's got 3 or 4 songs on there that are just her lyrics. And she's an amazing writer, you know. Like, listen to Broken. That's her.
Yeah, that's incredible. Absolutely. So, having toured worldwide, why do you like coming back to the UK?
Well, I've been coming there my entire career. I started touring there with John Mayall back in the East, and I've been coming there every year a few times, and I always get great audiences. People, and I'm always amazed that there are people who come to hear me that have been coming to see me play since I was with John Mayall, and I left him in '89. So it's been 36 years of my own band, and they still come out and they just make me feel great. They really listen to my music, and it seems to matter to them. And that's what I want to do. I'm not out to wear fancy costumes or have choreography or something. I want it to be about the music. And I just have this thing when people go, well, it's a good show. That's cool. Call it a show. But to me, it's a gig. You know, when I was young, starting off, if I went and saw the Cream. I went and saw Jimi Hendrix. I went and saw Mike Bloomfield. I went and saw my heroes. I never thought of it as like a show. To me, a show is like Vegas with
Yeah,
dancers and, you know, Katy Perry's putting on a show. I want it to be about the music. And when I went to see Jimi Hendrix, I went to hear him play the guitar and sing. It wasn't about, it's not Las Vegas here. It's about the music. And if you listen and you let yourself get into the music that my band is making, we can affect you emotionally and we can take you on a journey.
that for me is the essence of good music. It puts you in a place or a mindset of things that affect your life or have
Yeah,
affected your life.
yeah,
And
exactly.
it can pick you up and take you back down just as quickly.
Yes.
So that feedback you get from the audiences, is it that gives you the energy to keep touring?
It's very important. You know, I have this certain thought about when I do a gig, and there's certain levels. There's a gig that is magic. That's the top. And you don't hit that every night. When it becomes magic and you're playing and you get this circular energy between the band and the audience, and they give you the energy and you utilize that energy and you give it back to them. And that is a magical transcendent experience where I will be playing and I completely lose any awareness that I even have a physical body and I'm just the sound. But that doesn't happen every night. That's something you strive for. And then there's a level, which this was a really good gig. And then there's, well, that was an okay gig. And then there's, that wasn't the best gig. But the thing that keeps you going is every night you're in a different city, a different venue, everything's different, but you have the potential of creating magic and you strive for it, you know, and
Keep
that
on
keeps you
striving.
going. And that is always exciting, you know. What's it going to be tonight, guys? And before we go on, we look at each other and we give each other a hug and we go, okay, here we go. Let's go see what kind of community we can create out of the people in this room.
Create an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully, like I said, I'll be there. So, would you like to share one of your favorite memories from your career?
I can tell you one of my favorite memories was after my liver transplant, where I was in the hospital for 8 months and I had brain damage. I had to get speech therapy and sort of relearn how to talk. And I spent months of physical therapy because I was in bed for 8 months. And after the transplant, my legs didn't work. I had to started in a wheelchair and worked my way up to where I can walk. And when I got home after the 8 months, my son came in, handed me a Stratocaster, and I realized that due to the brain damage, I didn't know how to play the guitar anymore. It had been wiped clean from my memory. I had no clue. So I told my wife and kids, well, I'll have to do something else. I can't do this anymore. I have no idea what to do with this guitar. It's an alien creature. And they said, no, you don't do something else. You were put here to do that. And then Marie said to me, let me ask you something. When you were 10 years old and your brother came in the house and he had a guitar, and you kind of took the guitar and taught yourself, and I taught myself. She goes, you have to do that again. So I worked 6 or 7 hours a day for a year and a half, and I retaught myself all over again from scratch, chords and bar chords. After the music came back, my manager, who happens to be Marie, I said, I can play again. I'd like to see what happens if I get on a stage, because I had not been on a stage now in 2.5 years. Well, she booked me at Royal Albert Hall.
Nowhere small.
Walter spent many of the past 18 months in hospitals, too weak to walk and too tired to talk. In May of last year, in the 11th hour, a perfect liver donor match and an outpouring of love and support from the blues community saved his life. Since he has fought like a warrior and trained like an athlete to prepare for this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a warm welcome back to the stage where he belongs, Walter Trout.
This is not quite like playing to a room full of drunks at the local pub. But let's have some fun tonight. Minor blues, key of A.
Glenn?
Yeah, no pressure there. And let me tell you, I was so apprehensive. What's going to happen? I don't know if I'll be able to play. I don't know if I'll be able to sing. I had equilibrium problems where I had spent months playing sitting on a chair and before the operation. Anyway, she introduced me. I walked out on the stage and I counted to 4 and the band came in behind me. And I had this epiphany. I've done this 10,000 times. I'm home. I live on this stage. This is where I'm alive. And I started playing and I'm like, I got this. I'm back. And that was one of the most incredible moments of my entire life. And that's on YouTube. You can see that return to the stage on YouTube. And that to me, of all the experiences I've had, I played some amazing gigs with Mr. Mayall. I've played amazing gigs with myself. I've gotten to play with pretty much all my heroes. But that moment where I had to start over and walk down on most guys that go down to the corner pub. Let's see what happens. I'm going to go down to the pub and try playing. Not me. I went to Royal Albert Hall. And as soon as the band came in, I'm like, I'm home. I'm home. Here it is. That was an incredible moment in my life.
Well, given that seems to be a pivotal moment, if it's okay with you and your copyright people, would it be okay for me to embed that section of that into this chat?
That'd be great. If you look up on YouTube, it's the clip is called Marie Trout at RAH. And there it is. There's her introducing me and me coming out and playing with the band. And it was not my band. It was a group of UK musicians, some amazing musicians. We had Ash Sohn on the drums, who's one of your greatest drummers. We had Mick Rogers from Manfred Band playing with me, a bunch of guys. And I counted to 4 and they came in, man, and I was flying. I was on top of the world.
Well, I understand the recovery process. I've been an intensive care nurse all my career, so I completely understand the difficulties that you went through and your family.
Yeah.
So to get over that, to get to this is incredible. Well done, you.
And it's been now since my transplant, it's been 11 years. And in that 11 years now, I've done 8 albums. After the music came back, I've done an album a year. It took me a couple of years to get the music back, and then I've done an album every year, including one that I just finished that won't be out for a while.
Well, as you say, if you have a word with Lee, if he gets to send it across to Uberrock when it is released, I'll happily do a review on it.
Okay,
and maybe
cool.
we could repeat this chat in future.
That'd be great. I can tell you this album is rocking.
Well,
It's rocking. We don't
Broken.
sound like a bunch of 70-year-olds on here.
Well, like I said, I've listened to Broken a couple of times, and there's an awful lot of different influences in there, from country to deep south and bluegrass and also, and I love it. Absolutely love it. So there we are. So what do you see in the future for blues music then, given that you've spoken about Katy Perry and pop music?
Well, blues music and blues rock music is always sort of a niche market. And then you have certain musicians who kind of hit commercial success, like Joe Bonamassa, Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Yeah.
They sort of hit a sort of commercial level out there, but they're still not going to be,
Katy Perry's of the world.
The mass. It's not the mass market. It is a certain corner of people who are looking for that kind of music, and it's not about, dancers and choreography and all that stuff. It just doesn't interest me. If I see another pop singer coming out and singing and they have 20 dancers behind them doing all these moves, and it just doesn't do anything for me. To be perfectly honest, I think Michael Jackson had got that to the point of that was it. That was as great as that stuff can be, because he had musical integrity also. It wasn't just commercially put together by some corporation, right?
Yeah.
But he had the dancers, he had all that, but musically he was just spectacular. So he blended that, and they're never going to match what he did.
No.
So I just, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, But that's just me. There's room for everybody. I'd be the last one to say that what I love in music, everybody has to like, Everybody, there's so much music out there, and there is great music, but you have to seek it out now. You have to go find a band like Cardinal Black. You have to find a band like Rival Sons, or you have to find guitar players,
There's some incredible stuff
There's
coming out of
plenty
Canada.
there, man. But you have to seek it out. It's not being presented to you by the mass media.
No.
They're pushing the shit on you,
Well, you should have a good crowd next week, because they've just had Joe Bonamassa last week. So hopefully there's a lot of blues aficionados out there to come and see you in the Tram Shed.
Well, good. That's great. I'm excited to get back.
Good. Well, I'll have to see if I can persuade my brother if he wants to go, because he's a big fan. But there we are. I have to drag him along.
Yeah, drag him there.
Well, thank you for your time.
When we're done, if you find that young man I talked about, Smith Daniels, he'll be there kind of packing up some gear, and maybe he'll be in the merch booth. I'm not sure. But if you find him, he can bring you backstage and we can say hello and shake hands.
Thank you very much for that.
Before I get around to my Lead Belly song, I want to do a tribute to another icon of modern American blues music. We lost him recently. I met him when I was a kid, and he changed my life, and he put me on the path that I have pursued for 45 years. I'm speaking of the incredible Mr. B.B. King.